Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are live. It's been a minute.
2 months
And
of a minute.
contrary to popular belief, we've been busy. So here we are. We've got lots to talk about. We did have Jason on with us backstage up until 35 seconds ago, and then he dropped off. So I suspect he'll probably jump back on at some point. But we got lots to
Yeah.
talk about, and
He was coming via satellite from Spiro Studios.
yes.
As hopefully he can get back on and that'll work.
How's things, Brick? What's going on, buddy?
Things are weird. I was gonna say good. That doesn't feel right. But things are weird. Channel's doing good. As you know, I've been super busy. I colored earlier this morning with Alice and Troy, which is awesome. And it's kind of animal related because it's Gotcha Man and, birds. And that was fun. And then I got the news this afternoon with my brother. Got a bunch of stuff, trying to film a bunch of stuff before I head out. Because as you also know, I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. The country is not comfortable for me at the moment. So I'm going to try my best to get the hell out for a little bit. If I could find a way to permanently do that, I would. So all the people who've told me all my life, many times, to love it or leave it. I was trying to make that happen, but anyways.
I mean, that's not as easy as I think a lot of people
It's
think
not.
it is.
But then I think about my parents. My parents left the Philippines and came here. I was like, oh man, can I capture some of that energy? I'm being totally honest and sorry to bring that to your channel, but
no, I mean,
there's that.
Yeah.
Well,
no, it probably wasn't easy for them either, right? Like it was, and
yes.
again, not to get into this. This isn't my channel.
Yes, I'm sorry.
This isn't your channel at all. But like, this is a crazy time that we're kind of living in right now.
Yes.
And it's sort of like to think that your parents made probably a big sacrifice and made a huge amount of effort to relocate to somewhere where they thought the potential and the possibility was endless, and like the American dream used to be a real thing. And as a Canadian, I'm genuinely looking at you guys and I'm like saddened by the situation that you guys are in, because it feels to me, as somebody on the outside looking in, pretty unsettling and sort of I know
like
there's
the
hope.
stuff of the movies and that we watched as a kid. Yeah. And what you're doing right there is called empathy, and I'm not allowed to have that. So whatever. But yes, no, I think, yeah. So anyways, things are weird. I'm still on YouTube though, talking about toys. Hi guys. And I'm actually happy. It's a great escape, and I'll put a pin in that for my part. We should talk Animal Warriors of the Kingdom.
Yes.
Hopefully with Jason. He did message us on Facebook right now, something about the weather. But I think that was autocorrect trying to say the stream. But
yeah,
he's trying to get back in.
knows?
We'll get him in and we'll do some updates, and we're going to talk all about Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, which is easily one of the dopest lines out there. Yay.
Yes.
So,
and to that point, hopefully we'll get Jason back on. If not, between the two of us, we pretty much have we know what Jason's more or less going to say, so we can sort of speak on his behalf for most of the points that we're going to make. So
yes.
Let's get right into it. As I said, it's been a while since we've been on. I think it's been a couple months. I think the last time we did a stream was before WonderCon, which was the last weekend in March. So yeah, it's been like 2 full months, and we kept trying to kind of like reschedule, and we kept trying to find oh wow, they're coming to us live from a hurricane is Jason. Maybe. Is he frozen again? There he is. Okay, he's here. Okay.
I think we're gonna get that delay.
I think we're gonna get the delay too. So we will we'll work with that, and we'll just get going. Jason, interrupt us at any time. We'll assume that you're on like a 5-second delay, and give you a little bit of time every time we ask a question, and sort of see how that goes.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been a minute. Lots has been going on, but a lot of it hasn't been terribly exciting. And I think for the most part, when we sort of go through some of this stuff, you guys will understand that like we haven't had updates where there's like a picture to go with it, or you know, you know, anything that's painted to go with it or anything like that. All of our updates are kind of like we're working, and some of the work is less glamorous and less exciting, and sort of less visually stimulating. And so,
and frankly, sometimes even hard to explain for me. Like, okay, there's this. I literally will be with Jason. It's like, okay, break it down. Okay,
yeah,
of that, I can kind of say they're working. Okay, cool. And you know,
yeah,
but
yeah. There's
yes,
one specifically related to the reptiles. When we talk about the reptiles in a minute here, where it's been explained to me like 3 times.
Yeah.
And I think I finally understand like what exactly the issue was. But anyway,
yes.
before we do get into the news, let's take a quick look at the chat here. So Endless Fables is here. He was here early. Good to have you, buddy. Mr. Ryan Clark, Jeffrey, Seb Leduc, Peter Kleins. Peter, are you going to be at San Diego Comic-Con? Because Jason and I are. More on that at the end of the show. Nolan, good to have you, buddy. E. McNeil, Vine Jungle Figure Factory, Alan, good to have you. Long time no see. Rick Jones, you need to message me. You won a figure on the last time I did a live stream, which was ages ago, and you're supposed to message me, but you didn't, so I don't have your address. And so on and so on. Simon is here. Actually, I think that's probably going to be Simon.
Simon Bolivar.
And I feel terrible when I pronounce people's names incorrectly. To that point, Gabrielle is here as well. So good to have everybody here. And Peter says, I am. All right. We will have to I'll try to message you, and we'll try to hook up. I'd love to hang out and chat with you again. It was a pleasure meeting you at WonderCon. But yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Issue 6 of the comic book is now out and available on digital. You can get it from the Spiro website, spirotoys.com. It is phenomenal. It's exciting. You know, we're moving into a bigger, wider world. You know, the pirates are coming into play. You know, Kali, you know, no spoilers or anything like that. Kali's, you know, role is now sort of in flux, and other people are kind of, you know, everybody's positioning, and it's pretty exciting. So issue 6 is out now. If you haven't gotten it yet, what are you waiting for? Issue 6 is currently being worked on between Utama and Jason, getting that all going. So thoughts on that, Brick?
Nothing. I just got excited by something that Alan just
yeah, I know,
put in that's related to issue 6 and beyond. He is cool. A crazy talented dude, and he took you up on, I think, something you mentioned on the Clubhouse, right?
I did, yeah.
Sculpt Jadu's throne. Or I guess not Jadu's throne, but the throne that
the like the horrid throne that we see on the
throne that Jadu is chilling on, I guess. But yes, that threw me. But I'm excited about the comic. I'm excited about where it's going. The second story arc, I'm going to keep calling it the second season of the inevitable Animal Warriors of the Kingdom show, is pretty exciting. As you pointed out, the world opens up. We start to see a little bit more of the, I guess, the conflict isn't simple. The factions aren't simple. And there's potentially new players, and it's all super exciting. It's season 2 type stuff without the weird 80s jump the shark and try and, you know, just completely throw you off. It's still cohesive. I think it's still coherent. Yeah. It's still a great story. We're still finding out what's going on with Pale and his sort of new reality, what he understands to be who he is and what he needs to do. And yeah, good stuff. Now, Jason, you want to try talking, and let's see if we can hear from you from the mirror universe? Literally mirrored.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So whenever Utama and I decided, dang it, Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. So whenever we decided to reboot the comic book, we had the discussion that we wanted to pull back some of the subplots and really refocus the origin tale of Pale and him building his character or him building his team. So there was a lot of characters that I loved from my original, illustrated comic book that we had to kind of put on the side burner. So it's really exciting for me to finally get to start reintroducing those characters that were in the original story, but that just there wasn't enough space for us to tell everyone's story in that first season. So I'm personally really excited to have Boone and Grimes introduced in issue 6, and they'll play an intricate role throughout the second season or the second story arc.
Yeah, very, very excited for all of that. And
that's all I have to say about that.
the delay is
it's such a killer.
It's like a.
Oh my
God.
God.
If it was a bit,
it's like
if it was like a sketch bit, it would be perfect. But it's anyway.
Jason, if this ever hits you in whatever universe you're in, you mentioned Boone, you mentioned Grimes. Are you at all prepared to either share or tease some of the characters from the original version of Animal Warriors of the Kingdom graphic novel that might be coming into play? Again, either naming or teasing.
Yeah. So Gresh was, I'm trying to remember what his name was in the original comic book. What was his name? Golly. Man, I can't. Oh, Lasher. His name was Lasher. And I was like, we got to rename him. The Void was named. And he was a different type of animal. He was a bear. So we've seen those two characters in toy form, and the Void was obviously, introduced in issue 3. Gresh hasn't been reintroduced into the comic book yet. So we'll see if he gets introduced in the second story arc. He might be shown as like a cameo, but I'm not sure just yet.
Okay.
And then for anybody and everybody that is asking about the trade paperback for issues 1 through 5, it is sort of been on the it's been in the works. We're planning to do it. That's still the case. However, the sort of instability with what's going on at Diamond has kind of forced Spiro to sort of reevaluate that. The trade paperback is still coming. It is at this time not scheduled to be distributed by Diamond. And so there's a little bit of a delay between sort of letting Diamond sort of clear out their physical stock of issues that they've had. Well, in 2 ways. Physical issues of our comic book that they've had, and then sort of working out some of the details of the not comic book related issues that they've had. Jason is already working with a distributor to sort of get that out there. But as I said, we're waiting for Diamond to kind of get rid of some of their physical stock before we do that, to have a little bit cleaner separation between, Diamond's distribution and the distribution on the trade paperback. So stay tuned for that. Solo Sinner mentions that he can't find a book on the site. I've put the link in the chat there. It should be there. I've had to fix it a couple times. I don't know why. Shopify has been a little bit glitchy, but I do think I've figured out the 2 reasons that it disappeared for a minute. So I think it should be there. I think it should be available. And then, as I said, as soon as we have any news or update on availability and distribution for the trade paperback, we will definitely let you guys know. Everywhere and anywhere that you get your Animal Warriors of the Kingdom news. So if we have a live, we'll do it on there. If we have, we'll put it in the group. We'll definitely make sure that we put it in the Kickstarter updates as well. So yeah, as Brick has pulled up here, you should be able to just go onto the site, pull up the comic book page, and then issue 6 should populate there. Now, as far as it being a Canadian thing, I'm in Canada and I could look it up, so I'm not entirely sure.
Right. That's right.
Solo Sinner. It should work because it worked for me. But if not, reach out, help@spirotoys.com. I'm happy to help people out. Somebody did email me last week and said the comic books weren't working, and I said, and I changed something. I said, it should work now, and he emailed back and he's like, it's still not working. And I was like, okay, let me check something else.
That's
so
weird.
Like I said, there was a couple different little issues. I know, but it's not important. It's fixed now. So yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
That's
I will say that, sometimes when a software is updated, the first update doesn't always work. There's something in it that they missed and they'll have to do like a soft, patch on it. I know one thing that was like frustrating for us was at Joe Fest. We picked up 3 other vendors, and I couldn't make vendor orders on my phone, so I had to stop and go and make it on the little register and email it. And then it was like, okay, whatever. But it's working now, so
yeah, I mean, that's the the inside baseball stuff, the weird little behind the scenes stuff that when you've got a big team of tons of people working on it, you got an IT
it is
guy.
fun to vent about it every so often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just we're kind of figuring it out as we go. So when we get an email that says this isn't working, and we kind of go, well, it should be. It was yesterday. Sometimes it's just a weird little update. It's a little glitch. Maybe it's Shopify. Maybe it's the network provider. Maybe it's whatever. But we're always kind of trying to keep on top of all that kind of stuff. And as I said, it should be fixed now. And I kind of tested it, and the person that emailed did get their comic books and everything got sorted out. So that's all good. Nolan asks, will issue 6 will issue 6 be going to be physical?
Will we get a physical copy?
Yeah,
not a physical.
So we have printed we have printed physical copies of issue 6, which have been available at a couple conventions, and I believe we will sort of continue to do that. Now, as far as them getting sort of wide distribution through comic book shops, that remains to be seen. As I said, we sort of with Diamond not, for anybody that doesn't know, Diamond basically was sold to another company. That company hasn't 100% kind of settled in and sort of, they certainly haven't picked up where the previous version of Diamond left off. And so a lot of independent creators are kind of looking for other avenues. Some other distributors are kind of picking up some of the slack. And picking up, some of the books and things like that. So it's sort of in flux. If you're desperate to get a hold of one of these things, by all means, you're welcome to message me, email me, and I will try to do everything that I can to do that. I can't guarantee that this is going to be super cheap. If I got to mail something to you, I'll essentially kind of charge whatever the cost is. But we will try to get it done for anybody that really wants that. But again, it's a time frame thing. I'm not sitting on a pile of issue 6, so I can't just kind of mail it tomorrow. It would be sort of the next time I can get a printed copy and then set them aside and all that kind of stuff. So we will do everything that we can. But it's
we're currently kind of doing it as a treat for people that are at the convention.
Yeah.
Question on that. So I'm hearing the comic's been done, right? In a perfect world where Diamond didn't have to go through this situation, the restructuring or selling off, whatever it is, that would have just continued, right? Whenever it was ready, would have just been released as a monthly comic. the comic's done, it's ready to go, you're sitting on it. So, hey, let's do it digitally. And then I heard Jason clarify that it was specifically for like conventions and stuff to have physical copies. My question, how are you guys doing that? What is the, is it being printed as sort of like a short run print, or how did you end up handling that? Yeah. Short run print.
So, yeah. So can you guys hear me okay? I feel like the
Yes,
connection's a little bit
we
better.
can hear you. It's just more of, it's just a delay. We'll let you know if, like if we can't hear you,
Okay.
but just talk.
There's a delay. So what I did for the last 2 shows was we did a very small run of the comic book. It's not even like a first print. It's just a, hey, let's see if this is something that fans are interested at the show. We've sold out of all of that each time, which tells me, okay, we can actually go through an actual printer as opposed to something that's just a very small print run. So we're going to start printing current issues and then back issues, but they will be listed as second. This is going to be a second print because all those first issues or first prints are sold out. That way collectors can easily tell what the difference is. That being said, issue 6 is going to be a first print. So, people at the shows are going to get essentially first come, first serve until Philbo distribution catches up with where we are as far as the release schedule goes. They're taking orders right now, but issue 1 won't be in comic shops until September. So that kind of gives you an idea of the time frame that you'll be waiting if you're not going to be at a convention or if you don't want to go the expedite it with a snail mail.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you're looking to do, like you said, a full print run. If it doesn't work with Philbo, who is the new distributor,
Right.
So,
well, they're just the distributor. We're gonna be printing it. What'll happen is the prints will go, mostly to Philbo distribution, and we'll obviously have a carton or 2 sent to us so that we can sell that remaining stock at shows.
Okay, so it's not that different from the way Diamond was handling it then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just
but,
basically, because we're with a new distributor, we want to give all those comic shops and toy shops the chance to start on issue 1 again. Our deal with Diamond was always more toy focused. I'm not sure how much, people in the audience that are watching realize, but Diamond started focusing more on toys and collectibles, well before we started even offering the comics. So we're hoping that because this distributor is more comic and reading material focused, it will be accessible to a lot more comic shops. I don't remember exactly what the order was last time. Or when I talked to Philip, I think he said something like 60 comic shops signed on for the toys, but he was still getting solicitations for issue 1. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to order a ton of that issue. I don't know, but it gives everyone a chance who missed out to kind of get back in and have a physical copy.
Okay. Cool. Have you thought about, when I heard you say it's a second run for issues 1 through 5, the first story arc, does that mean maybe like different alternate covers, or have you thought about how you're going to handle that? Because I know you were doing some artist covers for the others.
I would like to do that. I have some alternate stuff, some alternate covers already done. It really depends on what the comic shops are interested in. There's a minimal that they need to for us to be able to justify doing the alternate covers. For issue 1, we're not offering it, but I think I'll start doing it with issue 2.
Cool. Just wondering. Very cool.
Brian Carr with a $5 super chat said the recent shots of Meryl and sculpts of the Brawler were next level. All the new waves of AWOC are going to catapult Spiro into the stratosphere. We hope so, and we certainly agree. Thank you for the generous super chat. We will be talking specifically about Meryl and the Brawlers when we get to the figures. Hapa Kennergy said Diamond Comics distro was also broken for years. COVID and the following departures was the death blow. I think I don't think anybody would disagree with you in that respect, that sort of was aware of what was going on with them, before that. Chris Branyan, who we met at Joe Fest, who basically went from tell me about this line to completely all in, and I think pretty much has everything now, said, I would love to have you send me a couple of copies of issue 6. Help@spirotoys.com. Reach out and I will I'll see what I can do. Like I said, we will definitely try to facilitate that when we can. Endless Fables, stay tuned, buddy. We're going to talk about it. Don't worry. Will there be humans, or was it a cruel joke? Rick Jones says, I don't like to read digital. Being in Canada, I get them digitally first, and I read them digitally, and then I'm the same way. I still need that physical copy. The comic book just isn't the same in a digital way. It's not how I grew up reading comic books, and it still feels weird. Even though I got nice big, computer monitors, it just doesn't have the same visceral kind of experience as actually getting a floppy book in hand. That being said, I'm still buying the trade because we're planning to add a couple little extra bits to the trade so that it's worth it, even if you have all the physical copies. Solo Sinner with a massive $25 super chat. Thank you so much every time. He said just grabbed issue 6, so it does work. It's not a Canadian thing. You just
Yay, Steve!
Thanks for the tip.
But you have to finish reading it before the show ends and let us know what you think.
He says, happy to see you guys all on AWOC stream together. Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, we've just been, like I said, we've been busy, and there's just so much non-glamorous behind the scenes stuff. And we kind of got this together last minute because next weekend I'm going to be out of town, and then the following weekend I'll be busy, and then the weekend after that is San Diego Comic-Con. So it would have been like a full month before we would have had a chance to do this again. Brick's going to be away. Jason's got shows. Like it's not for lack of trying that we don't try to sort of get these together, because we're all just busy with a bunch of different stuff. And Charles asks, sorry if somebody asked this already, but is there a date release for the last Kickstarter figures? So we will get to that as well. I suppose we should probably move into figures here. Let me just quickly scan the rest of the chat here.
While you're scanning the chat,
yeah,
can we just take a second to appreciate this background that I made, because I knew that the weather was getting bad?
Yes, we already commented on it. You're caught in a hurricane.
But we didn't appreciate
it. Oh, right. Very important
yes, news stuff. And it's mirrored too, so it creates fun
to us. Yeah, exactly.
But you'll watch.
Is it backwards to you guys?
Yeah, there's a little box you can hit that says mirror my screen or whatever. You just have to hit that thing to unmirror it.
Okay.
Oh well. Quip.
Okay.
Quip. You're. Endless Fable says, personally, I like being read to dramatically. When will the Audible version be available, or can somebody call me and read it to me? Well, I don't think you'd want me to do that. My kids barely want me to read books to them. So Jeffrey says forever physical. Yeah, I mean, we're all middle-aged dudes. Like at this point, it's like, yeah, the digital thing's cool, but physical copies, we're trying.
I'll be your forward-thinking nerd iconoclast. I do like digital, especially with my eyes these days, because I can do this and zoom in, and I can check out.
I've actually tried to do that with physical media, where I'm like,
you tried to zoom in. The downside is that I was just going to say the downside is
when
that
I'm painting stuff, I'll try to Control Z if I mess something up.
Yeah, you wish.
I'm like,
what am I doing here? No, I just the downside is that sometimes you're drawing things you're not necessarily expecting people to super zoom in, and there's some fun stuff there. But I am a digital dude. I run out of space, and I do tablets, so I get it. If you're sitting like on a screen, that's a different deal, but it still feels like a little bit like I'm in my little whatever on the toilet or in my bed with the same dirty iPad. So.
The big one for me is especially that in issue 1 that 2-page kind of reveal.
Oh my god!
Where I had to look at one side and then look at the other side.
Spread.
I was like,
"Spread, that's a bummer."
Like this doesn't work the same as this does,
right?
And then when you kind of figure out how to get 2 pages on your screen, then it's smaller, and then it's like, oh, well, that's less. There's less impact there. Anyway.
You sound like my dad, but yes, I hear you.
It's I mean, we're also toy collectors, so I get it. Space is a premium, and it's a thing. But I think I collected, through my dark times where I wasn't buying toys, I would still buy comic books off and on, and so that's kind of the one medium that for pretty much my whole life. I was buying physical copies of, and even in Marvel, you get towards the back of each issue of Marvel, and it's like, here's your digital download code for this book or whatever. And I'm like, I just read the book. What do I need a digital download for?
To zoom in and to trace. But yes,
I know, I get it. I mean, it's and like you said, Brick, you can compile a whole lot of information in a much smaller space than you can compile.
You could screenshot it, send it to your friends, tell them everything they're missing. Look at this. And
I'm running out of space in my sort of storage area for short and long boxes of comics. So I do understand it. But nonetheless, I still need that physical copy. And you can't see it because it's off screen, but I do have my physical copy of issue 6, which for anybody that has missed it, don't feel too bad because it's printed too big. It's not the same size as a modern comic. It's printed as like a Silver Age comic book. So we're working on fixing that.
I was wondering why. I was like, man, this feels off, like weird. If you got it, it was like 1 of 50. So
there you go. Solo Sinner, please stop. That's another $25 super chat. He says, just want to say this with a super chat to emphasize the fact. Jason, thanks so much for the humans. Stoked for that. Also, congrats on that early Meryl sample. Holy smokes. Killed it, dude.
So much. And thank y'all to the tribe for all the support. It really means the world to us. A lot of times as a creator, I can't help but compare where we're at with the 4 horsemen who are legends. And, I feel like we're in the infancy of our toy making and story creating journey. So you guys getting in on the ground floor just means the world to us. Can't thank you enough. And I think with that, we should kind of start the next segment because everyone's excited to talk about the figures.
Yes. Let's so because your background is like a green screen, for anybody that's not aware, there's what, 2 cats, right? There's 2 cats, so like the tails keep going across your shoulder, and
but this is my cat. She like follows me everywhere.
All right, let's talk about the actual toys, because that's that's what most of us are kind of here for. And let's so I was at Joe Fest. We had the some of the samples, we had some of the stuff there that was pretty exciting. I took a bunch of pictures and didn't post them anywhere. However, I did send them to Brick. Brick shared them on Instagram, so I'm actually going to share Brick's Instagram posts of these.
Brickception.
So let's go ahead and share that now. So this is Meryl. Of course, we got Meryl with the new soft goods, and he's looking resplendent in those soft goods. I think the puffy sleeves and the so this is the original artwork that we saw in the Kickstarter. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again before anybody mentions it going forward. Sometimes things look great in 2D, and then when you print them in 3D and start painting them, they don't translate as well. The green legs, the blue pants, didn't look as good in a physical form. So this was sort of the first paint master for Meryl that we shared a while ago. This is the armor that's underneath that soft goods. So there is, an armored torso underneath the soft goods. Notice the blue legs. Wait for it. This is the sort of sample that we have now. So this has the soft goods done by Harker, and looking fantastic. Wire in the collar, I believe. Is that correct, Jason?
There's a wire in the collar. So this tunic was so technically difficult for us to get dialed in. This is the 4th iteration. I will say that Eric nailed the look on the first round, but we realized that it would be very hard for the factory to put on the figure, and actually impossible for the toy collector to take that garment off. So part of the delay was us figuring a happy medium to where the factory could easily put it on and the customer could take it on and off without, essentially having to trim it off. So there's Velcro in the back. The sleeves are nice and puffy. The armor that you saw is still going to be painted underneath them. So in case someone wants to remove that and just have, no soft goods at all, they'll be able to do that as well. So we tried to just approach this figure from both collecting perspectives, because sometimes I don't like soft goods on a figure. I find it goes well on like a Jedi Knight, and then sometimes it is not that great on, I'll say, like Superman or something where, the cape, you want that to be soft goods. You don't want it to be plastic because then it makes it kind of hard to pose. So it's a give and take. And in this case, I think it will not affect articulation or anything like that. But if it's just a visual preference, you'll be able to take that garment off.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, with the Velcro in the back and it just sort of like, I think this is a really cool use of soft goods because it doesn't, I think the people that don't like soft goods, Alan, I'm looking at you, will have a hard time disliking this piece because it doesn't really interfere. Like sometimes you get those big capes that don't have a wire and they don't kind of sit properly and you can't really work with the figure. I do have a question about this, and I don't know why I didn't think to ask this before because, I saw this and handled this at Joe Fest. Will the soft goods on Meryl have any sort of effect on how the wings work on his arms, or will you be able to just sort of push it out of the way to get the wings on?
So it won't affect the wings at all. The only thing that will affect the wings being attached to him is those arm gauntlets. If they want to if they want the wings attached, they need to slide the gauntlets off. Otherwise, it's not going to affect it at all. The soft goods won't affect connecting the wings at all. Again, the only thing that will, hinder the actual attachment of the wings is those arm gauntlets. So you'll need to remove that and just have it off of it if you have the wings attached. I do want to say that this was not, at the show. We're going to be taking some product photos of it to kind of show exactly what it's going to look like. Show lighting can be a little deceiving, so we want to properly light it and kind of give customers an idea of how bright it is or how dark it is. There's some spots that are brighter, and then some spots that are darker than what we showed originally, particularly the garments.
I gotta pull this up quickly. Another super chat. Alan, Vine Jungle Figure Factory says, "More beasts, please. I can see humans on CNN. I want beefy, hairy bipeds in a purely platonic way." Well, we got plenty of those. Should we talk about the humans, or should we talk about the brawlers next?
I guess I have some Meryl questions. So before we do that, if we may, accessories. So where are we at with those? And I guess going back, because I know that's one thing that people have asked for the Kickstarter, and as a Kickstarter backer myself, I know we haven't quite seen all of the different weapons that we sort of shared and stuff. Are we going to be able to see some of that stuff in upcoming updates, or is it sort of like, oh, we sent it to the factory and it's a little bit after the fact?
Yeah, no, for Meryl, he's got the lute, or the little guitar that turns into a cross and turns into a bow. The other day I was trying to figure out if we could make, if an arrow should be how he plays it, or if it should be like a proper, like, I don't know what the string part that actually plays it. So I was trying to incorporate some sort of arrow. And then I was also trying to incorporate some sort of arrow holder that's built into the flask. So I'm still kind of playing around. The flask is already sculpted, but I wanted to add something onto it so that the arrows are kind of like underneath, and I'm still kind of working on it. And we've got a little ways before we start, doing that stuff with the factory. So I've just kind of been brainstorming it, Okay. But you'll definitely see the sculpts and stuff before it goes for tooling.
So I know you and I have had this conversation before, but any little sketches or anything you do to kind of get there, the early idea of like, oh, we want to try this out, and you realize, oh, that's not a good idea. If you can, and I know I don't want to interrupt the flow of the creative process, but snap a picture or something, because I suspect that I'm not the only nerd who wants to see stuff like that. And I think it'd just be great for documentation.
I'll definitely do that type of stuff. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm kind of guilty of just living in my own little world. And sometimes I forget what I do and don't share with you guys. And then obviously with the trial. So I'll definitely be giving my creative process a lot more forward.
Yeah, we don't want to get in the way. And, it's obviously your world to build, and we'll see the final product. But in the sense of like, you and I've talked about the Kickstarter backers and everything. It's like, we want the folks who have, as you say, have gotten in on the ground level, we want them to have access to the stuff. We want them to kind of know what's going on. And we do know that obviously there's the natural wait time as well as the unnatural extended because of world events wait time that happens. And so given that, I think it's always awesome to build that community, help folks sort of like be excited and see that stuff. So I'm excited. I'm speaking. That's a great part of this gig that we've got going on, is that Adam and I can talk selfishly as fans while Jason's not listening. And no, we can ask for this stuff because we want it to. And then we can each play our different roles to make sure that everybody else gets to see it as well.
Yeah. And I mean, that's on some level too, like that's where you and I, Brick, sort of got into this, is like, we were just speculating as nerds, super excited about this toy line.
Yep.
And I can absolutely sort of echo what Brick is saying, that we ask all the time for more. Give us the sketch, give us the piece that you threw away, give us like the insight into what you were doing. He switched internet again. There you go. So we're constantly trying to get more like behind the scenes, like, oh, I did this thing. So but in Jason's defense, now that I'm not just doing Spiro toys and I'm also working with other toy makers, he's not the only one. I think it's a creative thing. I think creators have a tendency to kind of like, okay, I got here, now I keep moving, and it feels to them like just part of the process. And to us on the outside looking in, we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
but we want to see the process. Like we're
Yeah.
fascinated by how do you get from I think I'd like to make a cardinal bard to here's the product on the shelf, and we want to see every step. So,
Yep.
you know, the more that we can see, the better. You know, no pressure.
Yep.
Maybe some pressure. You know, we want to sort of see how it's. We want to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Some
think
of
a lot
it,
of
not
it's
all of
more
it.
of documenting is what needs to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know, it's 2025, and so much of this is building the tribe, right? Letting folks in, and
Right.
I think that's just
Exactly.
exciting. So, anyways, this is us having a meeting, and I hope you enjoyed the meeting. Next topic.
Next topic. Let's address the elephant in the room, and I don't mean Mamba.
the other one.
Let's take a look at the humans. So for anybody that sort of hasn't seen, these pictures came out of Joe Fest. These are the equivalent of our like pipeline reveals. So if you're not reading the comic book, shame on you. But also, you would probably know what's going on with these humans if you were. If you're not into the humans, and if you're into Animal Warriors of the Kingdom for the animals, that's cool too. If you don't want to read the comic books, that's cool. I say facetiously, like, you should be reading the comics, but you should be reading the comics because they're fantastic. There will be humans coming. The humans that are coming are still a ways out. These are pipelines. These are not something that is affecting the overall production schedule for anything that has been sort of scheduled up to this point. These guys will feature in the comic books in a later issue. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jason, I think you said issue 9 or 10. So sort of towards the end of the second story arc.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into why they appear this way or exactly who they are. If you want to know more, check out Brick's post.
Read the sign, but
read the sign.
It's not like a mystery
connected to the. There's it's probably in here too. I don't want to go too far.
I think I did cut him off, but yes, I think I mentioned it.
These are human versions of two of the main characters, and I won't tell you which. And you're welcome to sort of do a little bit more digging. However, humans within the sort of greater context of Animal Warriors of the Kingdom are completely relevant, within the lore. If you're just collecting the toys to get cool toys and you don't want humans, that's fine too. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom is not just becoming Warriors of the Kingdom. You're still going to get plenty of animals, and we still have plenty of species to cover. So don't get too hung up on it. I think they look great. I'm excited for these. As somebody that sort of it understands 100% why they're here. I've been asking for these. I'm asking for a couple of other human characters, believe it or not. I will say this, full transparency, I'm way more excited about the animals, but these feel necessary within the lore, and I'm 100% going to be getting these, and I'm excited for these, and at least 2 other, if not more, human characters as well. Rick,
I've got a question for Jason on that tip. Jason, so I'm curious how you respond as a creator on one hand, who clearly named this thing Animal Warriors of the Kingdom and created this world, but then you're hearing feedback from folks who are like, don't give me humans. And this is not personal to anyone in the chat, but I just want to know from like an honest like a creator, hearing people sort of being like, you're kind of doing this, I guess. Hey, Jason, it's called Animal Warriors of the King. You're doing this wrong. And I know that's not what people are saying, but like, how does that hit you as a creator? I'd just love to sort of hear you respond to that.
So in 2 ways. First of all, I take it as a compliment because it means that, people are enjoying the line enough to be passionate about it. And then I kind of look at it from the perspective of how I grew up. So if you look at the Ninja Turtles and Masters of the Universe, both of those toy lines launched with several humans and several creatures in the line. In the initial release, they had, obviously Skeletor and He-Man, but they had Merman and Beastman and I'm pretty sure they had Stratos. And then on the Ninja Turtle line, which was more obviously animal focused, they still had April O'Neil, Shredder, and I don't care what anyone says, but we didn't know that foot soldiers were robots, so that was essentially another human. And I think Casey Jones might have been offered as well. So even animal-centric stuff offers humans, and it's just another way to kind of like further build the lore and give action figure collectors more diversity. Someone might pick up one of these human figures and just kind of work it in with a Masterverse collection. They might not necessarily collect a ton of AWOC stuff yet, and it might be a great way to introduce them into the line where they might not necessarily pick it up. They might be like, well, that was a great human figure and they've got all these other characters, let me try those as well. So I just kind of see it as me expressing my creative interest.
No, that's cool. And I love that you said, you take it as a compliment, because it's 100% true. It means that people are loving, are really into, and sort of took ownership of this one piece of it and have a certain expectation.
And that's
that means
what we
they're
hope
invested,
for,
right?
Exactly.
And then on the,
Quip, actually, Jason? Quip said, actually, Casey came in wave 2.
Oh, did he?
But wave 1 had April and Shredder.
Oh. I had him really early. I thought that was the one where I was like, no, I want those figures. But I'll defer to him, because he studies and never actually plays with toys. So he probably.
In Jason's defense, and in I will say this: there's a lot of people that probably didn't get Turtles until wave 2, because wave 1 sold out like instantly everywhere.
I got my wave 1s at my mom's house, but yes.
But
that was my rant.
They definitely would have been on pegs at the same time. So Quip, yes, I'm actually.
That's funny.
I think that's cool. I guess the other part of the human thing is, well, no, I'll leave it. But yes, I think it's cool to hear you respond to those folks. And as Adam started saying, and you did as well, that it's not just going to be humans; it's still animal warriors of the kingdom. The story is there. I am curious, though, as a creator, how much do you care if people don't ever pay attention to your story and just sort of have their vision of what animal warriors of the kingdom is supposed to be? Like, how does that hit you?
I like it. I think there's room for both types of collectors. I mean, I personally grew up, I didn't read the G.I. Joe comics. I saw a little bit of the cartoon, but I mean, I'm not going to lie. I used most of my G.I. Joes as Star Wars characters. Like Duke was like just Luke Skywalker for me, because they had better articulation. So I would use all the Star Wars vehicles, and the G.I. Joes were like the Star Wars characters, And it's funny because I saw someone using stand-ins for characters like I don't remember where it was online. It might have been Toy Galaxy sharing a story, showing one of the characters from the Black Hole, which was a 1979 Disney movie. One of the androids was like a stand-in for Boba Fett because they didn't have Boba Fett at the time. And so I definitely enjoy making my own playverse if I'm not familiar with the mythos, or if I don't want to, delve into that. I'm okay with either one. I obviously would love for, collectors to check out the story and see what it's about, because we would want to get that traction and get the IP popular enough to, make it hard for, the powers that be showrunners to not make a cartoon of it. I would love it to be a cartoon at some point, or have some sort of video game or something like that, and really kind of penetrate the pop culture bubble.
Yeah, cool.
And then Ray Paz asked this, and I don't know if you want to answer this or you want to just say, we can't answer it now or yet. Will you ever make humans in that original spacesuit when they splash down into this planet?
I mean, the idea is to have humans in varying types peppered in throughout the waves. Like right now, we're still building our parts portfolio. That's what this last Kickstarter was so important for, because we've essentially, quadrupled our parts catalog, and we'll have so much more access to different character types. By the time we're on the tail end, no pun intended, of the Kickstarter figures, we'll be able to just pepper in a character or a human character here and there, just sneak it into a wave, and you'll have a huge variety of characters instead of one wave essentially sharing every single sharing a single body type, which is fun, but you kind of notice that there's not a lot of variables as far as like toy selection or body types when that's the case. So going into the future, we want to have a very like mixed assortment of figures in each wave. Like I keep talking about the Four Horsemen. Their newest reveal, I think they had 7 figures, and every single one of them was a different body type. I mean, they're obviously 10 years ahead of us, but I would like to, that's my goal, is to get to that stage where we're offering an assortment of figures that's just a plethora of all different body types and different character types as well.
Yep.
On a Four Horsemen tip as well, Nolan asks, are the human parts still interchangeable with the animals?
Oh.
If you pull up the Blight figure.
Hold on, I got which Blight figure? The human Blight figure.
Yes. He is in fact
Blight. May or may not be Blight. Yes, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What do you mean may or may not be red? No, it's on the label. We'll call it Blight because that's what it said at Joe Fest, and it said Pale and Blight, I think is what it said.
Yeah. Did Jason freeze again? I can answer this question, Nolan. Yes. Yes, they are. Just looking at these two human figures,
it's the mix of the lizard. Sorry, I'm talking over you.
No, keep going.
So if you look at that figure, it's a mix.
He's dropped off completely, so I'll answer the question for him. If you look at these two figures, there's some of the reptile armor on the sort of paler figure, and then on the less pale figure, which is in fact the figure of pale.
Sorry, I just think that's hilarious. The less pale figure and the pale figure. Okay, keep going.
The figure on the right has reptile armor. The figure and the skirting from the apes that we've seen before. The figure on the left has those fabric covered pants, and those fabric covered pants will very likely actually appear on a figure before they appear on this human character. So for anybody that's sort of worried that these humans are taking over, we're actually in theory going to be using these pants on a figure before we use them on this human figure. Jason's in the back. I'll bring him up in just a second here. But Nolan, to answer your question, 100%, these parts will be interchangeable. Not all the parts are interchangeable, but where body types are the same, we try to make as much interchangeable as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And yeah,
I was cursing while I was offline.
Okay, cool. Question: so these are all new figures, so they're all going to be pinless, right? Correct.
Yes.
So and so, as you were pointing out, they're like the reptiles. But as far as like interchangeability, you mentioned armor and stuff. But even like if someone were so inclined, hands and feet would all be the same sort of mushroom peg setup.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. If you look at the gray figure, that's a mix of Kali, Pale, and Corvus's armor. So that's all existing armor that he's wearing. The fleshy colored guy, all of that armor can be slid off and used on all the other Pale bucks.
Cool.
I got to bring this one in because it was a super chat. I didn't miss it. It was sort of outside of the sort of flow. Capono Bear says, noob apologies, but are the guns not meant for the beast to grip the trigger? I think he's talking about that one rifle that came. And there is, I don't think it's not meant to be gripped, but I think there's a bit of a disconnect between the design and the sculpt for the hand and the rifle. It holds the rifle quite well, but
we tried to get it. Yeah, we tried to get it to where it. So Dave actually adjusted the finger to where it could be like flexed. If you could like flex it a little bit and put it on the trigger, but we didn't do a proper trigger finger hand for it. Hopefully that answers his question.
Yeah, I think, but also these warriors exercise proper gun safety, and so
definitely
they
the
don't
trigger
rest
discipline
their fingers.
is absolute.
Yes.
I saw a chat just pop up. Okay, like
we'll get there. There's just a lot of chats
gotcha.
that we got to get to.
Yeah.
Endless Fable
Okay.
said, how do the wings attach with the soft goods? I think we already addressed this. It'll be fine. You'll have to take that forearm guard off, but they basically plug into the forearm and then the sort of lower portion of the arm. So they should work just fine on there. Don't worry. Chris Branyan said, by the way, I wanted to tell you guys helped make my wife and I's first Joe Fest very memorable. Well,
it's a great
Chris,
show, right?
I can't speak for Jason or Derek, who were there with me, but I would say it was an absolute pleasure meeting you guys, and it was pretty fun to sort of get to share something with you that you guys weren't super familiar with, but were super excited about and really passionate about. So, I think the sentiment goes both ways. It was lovely to meet you. Let's see here. Christopher Bouchard with another $5 super chat says, hello everyone, and can't wait for the Reptile and want the human version of Blight. So he's in the he's in the camp of wanting the humans, as am I. Like I said, I'm way more excited about the animals, but the humans are necessary within the lore. They have to be there.
Yeah, they're in the first issue. So they were going to make an appearance regardless. It was just a matter of time.
Brian says, is Adam the only one of the AWOC team that hasn't had problems with the stream? No,
don't
you just haven't been tuning in long enough, because I used to have a ton. I had a whole month where they didn't work at all. Brick knows. Brick was there for those ones. It was a nightmare. I almost just quit streaming. But
well, anyway. I think I particularly may have traumatized Brian Endless Fables, because when he was on my stream, mine cut out and he was talking to himself in the chat. He was hosting suddenly on his first stream ever. Sorry,
I changed my background to a bomb shelter. I feel like it made more sense with the internet cutting out.
Well, the internet's come through clear since you did that, so maybe the hurricane.
I should have done it before.
Yeah,
there have been some quick comments about the humans. I just, I want to reiterate what you said earlier. People had hopes for like colors and stuff, but to reiterate what you said earlier, at some point as these are developed, because these are really early prototype / paint explorations and stuff that we don't have like proper photos of, and it was in the lighting of the con and Adam's phone, so hard to judge what's there. Just keep that in mind, and that's true for Merrill and anything else you saw there. So all those beautiful pics will be coming from Merrill and the other figures that are coming to the actual figure fruition soon through the Kickstarter, so that you'll see those first, those nice photos. And then really the fun tease about these humans is that this is like well down the road, right? This is a ways out. We've still got several waves
in the pipeline
for the there's several waves of Kickstarter figures, which I don't know. Is that a good segue to talk pipeline?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into that, because we're we could easily do 3 hours on the what skin tones are we going to see with the human figures 3 years from now. But in a more sort of tangible news, in more immediate news, the next wave that will appear in physical form will be the Brawler wave. Now, it has been delayed. There's no we're not going to try to pretend that that's not the case. We're not trying to beat around the bush or do anything like that. We're going for full transparency here. Jason, do you want to give us the latest update on the Brawler wave?
Sure. So just real quick on the Brawler wave.
Perfect. Can't hear a word of it. Yeah, nothing.
I think you got to get out of the bomb
Over.
shelter. The signal's
So-
not so great there.
So you saw, oh my God, if you saw the Reptile at Jet Fest, those are actually smaller than the production versions. Let me know if you got that.
Yes, the Brawler
Yeah.
prototypes that we got to see, both at Legion's Con and then other cons between then and Joe Fest, were slightly smaller. They came from the factory. Factory spit them out for feedback. And on this end, Spiro caught, hey, these are a little too small. Can you scale them up so that they scale better with the rest of the bucks? Which is what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where he was going from there. I think it's actually, you do know, like he's talking about the delays.
Yeah.
So keep going.
They had to get resized. So they came in a little bit too small. We sort of went back to the factory and said, these need to be about 10% bigger. So they had to get sort of rescaled and redone there. Beyond that being a delay, we had the delay of the unknown of tariffs. And so, you know, anybody that was sort of in the queue for production had to either commit and risk, you know, being hit with tariffs, or hit pause and sort of go to the back of the line for production. As a result,
let me pause you real quick.
The only company that sort of had this. This has all happened to everybody. So, you know, things were already on the water, things were already in warehouses. So for some of the big guys, you're not going to see much of a pause. For most, if not all of the small guys, and I've spoken to quite a few people, there are going to be delays, and whether those are perceived or not based on when things were scheduled, you know, is going to be dependent on every other company. But for us, because people are kind of waiting on these, and we were waiting to get these done, those delays kind of impacted us a little bit more, because we're sort of waiting, and we're sort of, you know, so we got a little bit bumped. We also got bumped by a couple other projects that, you know, just because of timelines, because of their schedules and things like that, they kind of were sort of not bumped ahead of us, but like they were manufactured ahead of us. We are, and Jason can correct me if he wants in a robot voice, we're basically next up for production. So most of those things are sort of ironed out. To the best of my knowledge, the Brawlers are sort of scheduled to be sort of put into production very, very soon. We're now in sort of the final phase of the whole, you know, thing where the figures just need to be produced, put on a boat, and shipped here. And, you know, without sort of jumping the shark or anything like that, we are tentatively expecting the Brawler wave to arrive when, Jason?
Right before Legion's Con.
Right before Legion's Con. So what that means is, if they do in fact arrive in time, they'll arrive just before Legion's Con. They will arrive, when we say arrive, we mean at the warehouse where they are going to be received. So that warehouse is also our fulfillment warehouse. Once they arrive and the warehouse checks them in and says, you guys are good to go, we can fulfill orders, instantly I'm going to process all the Kickstarter orders. The first thing that is going to leave the warehouse is every Kickstarter order for the Brawler wave.
Yep.
Once and only once those are fulfilled will we sort of start distributing to people that have sort of pre-ordered. If the backer kit people don't, if those folks don't get, you know, their shipping notices and things like that before Legion's Con, we won't have them at Legion's Con. We're kind of, you know, it sucks. Like if they arrive in the warehouse the day of, we're kind of committed to like getting the Kickstarter stuff out before anything else. However, what I will say is that based on the previous wave, the fulfillment company can bang out all the backer kit orders in like a day, maybe two. So the delay between them arriving in the warehouse and them giving us the green light and us getting these figures, you know, out to everybody is like a really, really tight, short window. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure that these figures are available for Legion's Con. And then basically Legion's Con, if those backer kit orders get shipped out and we can sort of physically get stuff to Legion's Con, then we're going to be fulfilling, any orders, pre-orders and things like that right after that. So it'll be a really, really short sort of bang, bang, bang of sort of anything that's, backer kit, anything that's in person, anything that's pre-ordered. And then, we'll be looking at orders for sort of in stock, in hand orders right after that. So,
I went ahead and brought that up. I went ahead and brought that up from Brian Carr because it's just on time for what you're saying. So the goal is to have them, as you all heard, arrive. But I just want to make sure if you missed it, that first priority is going to be the Kickstarter backers. If we're unable to get those to those people to get those orders out, not necessarily in hand, but shipped out.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because we can't
before Legion's Con, we won't sell them at Legion's
Con. They have to be shipped out, but we can't guarantee, like a European backer, they have to go through customs and all that type of stuff. So it will be mailed out, but like you said, it might not necessarily be in hand. For us to start doing, the Legion's Con offering. It just has to be mailed.
And again, full transparency.
Go ahead.
Full transparency, as a Canadian, I actually prioritize international shipments. So if you're in Germany or Australia or France or Canada, your order gets shipped before the US orders, because the US orders get there quicker. So I'm trying to sort of, tighten up the sort of gap between when the furthest order arrives and when the closest order arrives. Now I don't go like state by state or anything like that, but international goes out first. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that you guys get these as quickly as possible. And then to Brian Carr's question, it's kind of like a race to sort of make sure that those all get out. That takes me, I'll be ready once we know that they're sort of on their way to the warehouse. I'll be ready, and I'll have sort of a queue of orders that need to get processed, that need to get pushed through. So we'll know very, very quickly. I will say this as well. The fulfillment warehouse is within driving distance. Jason and I know this intimately.
We found that out.
The fulfillment warehouse is within driving distance of Legion's Con. So if they're physically in the warehouse, we can, worst case scenario, drive and go.
We laugh now.
We just
laugh and we smile.
Change to pay the New Jersey tolls along the way.
I love that you all can laugh
about it. I may or may not have skipped paying one of the tolls because we ran out of change on our trip last year.
I don't remember that at all. You know what I remember from it? I remember
your anxiety,
the warehouse manager catching Adam peeing in the parking lot, and the cool Target that they had nearby, like in the area. We stopped at the Target.
It was a good one.
Hunt. And
I remember you guys just me being excited to seeing you all in person for the first time, and there's this thick fog of frustration and concern as to whether or not we would have toys. And then it was like, okay, let's set up. Okay, bye, because they're gonna go grab it. That said, this team flies by the seat of their pants and gets stuff done. If it's gonna happen, if they actually are in the States beforehand, that's going to be great. And you heard what's going to happen. A version of this will be updated on the Kickstarter, so those folks will know. And I will say, let's just maybe get through some of these chats. I wanted the ones that are related. I will say JMac77, toy collecting teaches patience, Daniel Sun. And yes, and unfortunately, this is the reality, especially for indies. Like, folks need to understand, if you've been in the collecting game for a while, you go to Target, oh, hey, look, there's a new Hasbro figure. That's not the case for Mythic Legions. That's not the case for Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, Savage Crucible, and the like, right? We pre-order or we crowdfund and we wait, and we are happy to support, or those of us are, and we just wait. And then eventually you get this steady trickle of beautiful, wonderful, some of the best toys on the market. So I'm with JMac77, and I am also with Tallulah Lee, who says whatever will be, que sera, sera. And I'll have something to continue to look forward to. And
I like that. I definitely like to look forward to stuff, that's tentative release or going to ship soon. And it's just like you said, it's all part of collecting. Or, I still remember go and watch The Phantom Menace and being like, I can't wait I can't believe we have to wait 3 years until the next movie comes out. And I finally probably shouldn't have mentioned the Phantom Menace. How about the Fellowship of the
No,
Ring,
you're
which came out
fine.
around the same time? I remember waiting and being like, I can't believe it's going to take a year for the Fellowship of the Ring to come out or whatever. So anyway, y'all know what I mean.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that people are thinking are taking forever to come out, we're going to talk about Bushido in a minute. But before
He's
that,
up for a second.
Nice.
But just before that, I'm just going to bring up this another $5 super chat from Christopher Bouchard. Still want an orange tiger with that human blight armor and claw.
Oh,
weapon.
That would be cool.
Yeah. I will say this. People already know because some of them, like in a panic, were really good. Like our fans, like they are real cool, and they got our backs because on the update there was a picture of Meryl that has beautifully like Dr. Dre music video all mosaiced out intentionally by me. And then people saw me post those photos so they could get a better look, and they're like, "Hey, dude, I think you forgot to blur stuff out." So if you're one of those people and you're intrigued and want to go check out that post that he shared you might see a little something that might be related to something else, but you don't see a whole lot. So
right.
I think we can just let that one hang in the air and move on.
Sure, just let it sneak out of there.
Simone said, sorry, I'm on delay. If the brawlers are checked, will Void be in the same wave? Yes, the Void will be in the brawler wave.
Yep.
It'll be all the brawlers that we've done so far. So yeah. Brian Carr says, bottom line is that we are going to have so many awesome AWOC figures coming in 2026, 2027 and beyond, and they are all worth the wait. 100%. On that note, we're an hour and 15 in. Very, very quick note on the Reptiles wave, which comes after that. And this is something that maybe we'll bring up next time because we can go a little bit more in depth in it. The Reptiles got bumped because of a very sort of particular issue with the pinless joints. We thought we were sort of further along in production than we were, but they had to be kind of re-engineered, basically. This is the thing I was sort of alluding to at the beginning, where I said Jason explained it to me a bunch of times and I still don't understand. He said something about like tubes and cylinders, but they needed the structure, and I was like, what?
So essentially all the articulated points that were tooled and compatible for everything that's been released so far, excluding the Gorilla Buck, I had understood that all of that would be transferable to the Reptiles because they're the same size. But unfortunately, none of it was transferable because it's gone pinless now. So none of those parts would be usable, which is just a huge undertaking to get done. The good news is that we've the amount of people that are able to prepare those. It's very specialized. There's not a lot of people in the industry that do that type of work. It's very tedious and technical and not exciting to work on. So most people don't want to do it. That being said, we've got another great addition who's taking care of the lizard body and converting those parts so that we can move forward with it. And that was really the bottleneck as far as like the lizards go.
And to Jason's point, we're not going to name any names, but the person that we've sort of brought on board to sort of help out with that is somebody that has a huge amount of experience sort of within this, and kind of came to us and said, hey, I think part of what's holding you up is something that I can help you out with. Are you guys open? And we were like, yes, please, let's do it. So as I said, with some of the other stuff, we're doing everything that we can to sort of get this stuff expedited. We've had a few hiccups in the last little bit, but given where we're at with the Brawler, and honestly, given where we're at with the Reptiles, knowing now what needs to be done and sort of how to avoid some of these things in the future, we're sort of positioning ourselves to be considerably more efficient going forward. So stay tuned. Our apologies, and stay tuned, because we're learning from our mistakes as we go, and sort of streamlining things, and picking up additional assistance when and where we can, and there's a bright future ahead.
If I may, like, on that note, I heard Jason cite, and behind the scenes, we talk all the time about, oh my God, the Four Horsemen, look at this amazing stuff. Look what they do. They're so great. And Jason was alluding to, like, we look to them as sort of like a model of what we're doing. And you were saying, like, we are in there, I think you said 10 years. You cited 10 years, which is the Mythic Legions line. But absent from that is the several other lines that they independently launched before that, and the 25 years of being a company, and then even beyond that, McFarlane. Yeah, and even before then, it was McFarlane, and they were learning how figures are made, and familiar with factory processes that inform their design and their sculpts. So that said, just I want to throw that for you to hear and for everybody else to hear. Like, I think Spiro's in great shape, like figuring stuff out, and we have the benefit of like all that experience that's out there, and then other people who I know who they are, as you all do, who clearly have a ton of experience. We're now in a world where they can come up to you and be like, hey, you need help, and they do, and there are other people out there
too. You're like, wow, okay, yes, so thank you.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff all around, and I think at the end of the day, Spiro. Yeah. Anyways, that's all I'll say. That was my shill segment. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Up next, we alluded to it already, but people keep asking, and we keep kind of deferring, the answers and stuff like that. Bushido is still coming. It's still
finally
in the works. We have now, and I think we're kind of like, now that we know when the Brawlers are going to arrive, and we know sort of where we're at with the Reptiles. Bushido is coming. The pre-orders are tentatively, now this could change. I mean, everything, we don't want to say this and then have everybody sort of jump down our throats, but Bushido pre-orders will go live March 2026.
Yeah. So wave 1 is going to be 3 figures. But the plan is to move to 4-figure releases per wave after that.
Question on that idea. So this wave is going to be 3 figures to sort of what for this line is the quote unquote standard buck. And then one that is the big Oni oversized.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. So
yeah.
So have you thoughts about no, I was going to ask that when you mentioned 4 figures or whatever, are you looking to and Dan looking to kind of do a similar thing where let's build what we can build using the tools that we have from wave 1 for a little bit and then expand, or since it's, kind of like effectively your second toy line, what you're thinking?
So, after wave 2 is when we want to start introducing a new type of Oni each wave. Hopefully that will be able to justify that with sales. I think it's a really compelling line, and the articulation is going to be very similar to import tool. But I think it's just a matter of when they launch, is it as awesome as we think it is? Like, is there going to be support for it? I feel like there is. Whenever we announce them, we had just finished watching Blue-Eyed Samurai, and and we were like, man, that's really good timing, and then then we have to wait like the year and a half before we can actually offer it as a pre-order. So I know Dan's got a bunch of really cool stuff in mind, and there'll be several iterations of that Samurai. It's a really amazing figure, and I think we'll get a lot of reuse out of it. The Bounty Hunter figure, I'm not sure how much of that will be reused. I'm sure there'll be some sort of like Warrior Monk or something in a future line, where there'll be that need for a bare-chested warrior and some soft goods as is it a gi? What's it called there? The top, No, is it? Well, I don't know.
I mean, it depends what you're talking about. It could be. Yes. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I could nerd out on Bushido almost as much as I could nerd out on Animal Warrior of the Kingdom.
You know what? I will say this.
We'll have to start another show for Bushido, I think, at some point, because I talked to Dan and I'm like, "Are you gonna do this? Have you thought about this? You used to do this." And then he's like, "Yeah, I want to do all that stuff." And then he's like, "And I want to do this." And I'm like, "What?" Like some of the other stuff that he's got, like he's got a whole bunch of ideas that are like super, super cool and different. And he's got ideas like for the line that other toy lines aren't doing some of the things that he wants to do. And like, he's just got cool ideas and sort of just a fresh take, as somebody that's been sculpting for other people for a long, long time. This is his passion project. This is something that he's been sort of quietly working on, behind the scenes for a long time. And he's so cool. He has a very specific idea of what he wants. And I think he's executed these figures incredibly well. To anybody that is sort of worried about those pipeline reveals for the humans for Animal Warrior of the Kingdom, I think all you really have to do is look closely at the paint apps for like Bushido to sort of see, what Spiro is doing. Those pipeline ones, the paint's not great. I think Jason will admit that. Like they're just sort of thrown together to have something at a show to sort of show people. But when you see these Bushido figures in person, they are beautiful. Like I don't think you're going to see it necessarily in most pictures, unless you get an amazingly well done, maybe a 1/6 shooter picture would kind of do the paint apps justice.
Yeah. And that's the plan for the promotional images. I don't know, Adam. I don't know if you could tell how much I was panicking when they got delivered to the wrong hotel, but I just kept thinking,
Did we tell that story? No, we haven't, because we haven't done a video since.
Tell that story real quick. I'm gonna go take a comfort break. I'll be right back.
Really fun story. Because this is every show that we go to. There's a fun
story.
Let me
before this. Jason told me this story, and it's beautifully stressful. But I will say I'm gonna have to cut out of the AWOC Talk Monkey business early because I've got to prep and talk to my guests. But we'll continue. I'm not interrupting the story. You're still gonna go.
No,
I am interrupting the story, but you're still gonna go. But miss you, Adam. Miss you, Jason, and he's not here. And we'll keep going. All this information will be on the update sooner than later. And I'm out. Bye, y'all.
So Brick had to take off because Brick has his own channel, Brick Something, where he will be going live with his weekly Sunday afternoon show in about 10 minutes. So I fully intend to wrap this up within the next 10 minutes. I don't know if Jason's going to come back or not, but I'll just sort of tell this story, and then I only got one more sort of piece of news or sort of knowledge to share with you guys. So Jason's back. Joe Fest. We get there. All the products there. I was worried about the product this time because we missed product at another show, and everything was going according to plan. We took out, all the product, got it all set up, started getting all the samples for the paint masters for the a couple figures. We got the brawlers out, we got a bunch of things, and Jason goes, I don't have the Bushido figures. They had shipped separately in a separate box that had sort of shipped out separately, so it wasn't on the pallet that arrives at the show, wrapped up nicely in plastic and so on. But Jason had believed that it had been shipped and that it had been received at the hotel. What Jason didn't know is that it had been shipped to a different hotel. So no problem. We know the address. We check the address. The address is another hotel that's like 10 minutes away. We're just going to rip over there and get it. But beforehand, I said, hey, Jason, you should call the hotel, make sure that it's there so that, we make sure that somebody knows that we're coming, and so that we don't just show up, so that they, have a little bit of, knowledge that like we're going to be random people that aren't staying at the hotel asking for a box. He calls the hotel. The hotel not so politely tells him, why are you calling us? We don't have a box for you. There's nothing with your name on it. We don't have this package. I think that's when you really started panicking, And then we went, okay, well, the box has been shipped. We have the fact that it was been signed for. There was a name for it, so we called and said, this is the name that's signed for it. They said there's no one that works here that has that name. We thought, okay, now we're in a little bit of a situation. We wrap up on the Friday night. We drive to the hotel where it's supposed to have been shipped. We kind of check in. It was hard to find the hotel. It was
really
a weird hotel that had like a driveway in between two other hotels. We drove past it the first time. The sort of the car's navigation was like, couldn't figure out where to go and what to do. We were like driving in circles for 5 minutes, and I kind of pulled over, and I said, okay, we gotta look on a map and like figure out exactly where this is. We found it. We found this hotel. Like I said, a driveway in between two other hotels. We get in there. The lady there was very accommodating. She was still not super friendly, but I kind of understand why. She was like, I don't know what you guys want, but I can't do anything for you. The address was like 1245. And then when I sort of pulled up a map, I realized that the hotel next to that one, the address was like 1249. And as somebody that does shipping and receiving, and somebody that sort of sees a lot of boxes and sees a lot of addresses that get scuffed up and stuff like that, and sort of thinking from the perspective of a delivery driver, I thought, okay, a 5 and a 9 look pretty darn similar when they're scuffed. And when you're looking for a hotel, this is like Hotel Row, in Augusta, where like
hotels.
Yeah, in a row, it's all just hotels, and they're all called like whatever suites and what. So it's like, I could totally understand.
All owned by Hilton. It's just all the Hilton subsidiaries or sister companies.
So I go, well, let's go next door. It's a bit of a long shot, but it's clearly not here. We'll try every hotel, on either side. We go to the next hotel, which is 1249. And go inside, and the lady's on the phone, and Jason's texting with the UPS store guy that he deals with, who's awesome. He was super helpful.
He's great. He really is.
And he goes, well, let me kind of call around and I'll try to figure this out. So he's doing that while we're kind of physically looking for this package. We go to this hotel. We're standing at the counter. The lady's on the phone. She says, she kind of, just a minute, I'm just on the phone. She hangs up. She goes, I just have to go help somebody else and I'll be right back. And we're like, okay, no problem. Jason's losing his mind in the way that Jason does, which is very, calm. But I can see it. I can sense the energy.
Yeah.
She
That's
goes
what I was wondering. If you could tell how much I was freaking out.
I can tell. You're like, if you've ever met Jason, he's super, super chill. And when he's not, he still appears super chill. But he like vibrates. It's a different energy that comes off of Jason. So she comes back and she goes, sorry about that. And so Jason approaches the lady and says, hey, and he's just gotten a text from the UPS store guy. And the guy says, it's at the hotel next door, which is the hotel that we're at. Jason says, hey, I think you have a package for us. She goes, when I hung up the phone, that's who I was talking to. You're the guys, like, you're here instantly. So she went and got the package. It was the package. Everything worked out, but it was like just, par for the course. Every time we do a show, there's always something. Any more? Do you have any? You're on a delay, or what? Do you have any more? That it was just. There's always something.
The whole time that it was missing. The whole time that I was missing, I was like, one, don't freak out outwardly, is stay as calm as possible. And then two, I kept thinking about how all the Bushido paint masters took approximately like 4 days to do, as like the AWOC take 2 days to do, and I was just kind of like, accepted that I'll just be redoing those whenever we got back home. And I was just kind of like, I really wanted to show them off. And like, but it's going to be a 4 day one of those to paint them and everything, because they've got, you know, like you mentioned, when you see them in person, they've got the washes on them, they've got dry brushing, and then there's details on top of that. So it's just kind of like, well, you know, lessons were learned.
Anyway, they arrived. We had them out. Everybody was excited. We had fun. Cons are great because we get to meet people and we get to hang out, talk toys. We're gonna wrap it up. Brick's going live in about 5 minutes. Jason and I. Where is it? Let me bring this up. Hapa Kenergy said any Spiro presents at SDCC. Jason and I will both be at San Diego Comic-Con. Jason is doing a panel on Saturday evening. There's an independent sort of toy makers panel that Jason was invited to do. And Jason invited me to join him to go along to San Diego Comic-Con, which I hadn't planned on doing. And as somebody that does a lot of planning for everything, I'm fully booked and, you know, confirmed for all my Legions Con stuff, which is in November. My anxiety happens when I don't have things super planned. So I'm a little bit stressed out about it, but very, very excited about it. We won't have a presence in terms of a table, but we will be there. We'll be around. If you see us, feel free to stop us and, you know, ask us any questions that you want. And we're happy to chat about Animal Warrior of the Kingdom or any other toys. I mean, we're toy nerds ourselves. So I know what I'm going to be excited to go and check out at San Diego Comic-Con. I know Jason is pretty excited to see a few things too. So
this was my first one.
Say hello.
This was a very last minute thing. We got invited to do an indie toy panel, and we just could not pass it up. And Adam just recently, you just did WonderCon, so you're all set with your Comic-Con ID, and I already had mine. I had just never actually gone, so I was like, well, I'm already set up, so, you know, let's do this and pick up all the exclusive toys while we're there, maybe, possibly, asterisk.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Klein says, what day are you getting to San Diego? I'm getting in Thursday morning, and then I leave Sunday afternoon. Are you getting in Thursday morning too, right?
I get there Friday afternoon, and unfortunately I have to leave really early on Sunday. I tried to leave at a later time, and I wouldn't technically get home until Monday, even though I would leave on Sunday. It was like a 12-hour layover. It was weird.
Yeah, that was mine too. So I actually have to leave Thursday night and have a super long layover to arrive on Thursday. Otherwise, I couldn't get there until like Friday night.
Right.
And it was more expensive. So I was like, I spent hours figuring out like, okay, how does this work? What makes the most sense and all that kind of stuff. So Arlen's going to be there. We're going to be crashing with Arlen. He sent me pictures of the hotel that we're staying at. So we're going to be, I'm going to get there. You know, I'll get a couple drinks. I'll just relax by the pool. This is going to be a great one for us because this isn't a convention that we're selling at. So a lot of the
It's just kind of like,
this one aren't there for us.
Yeah, go hang out.
This is going to be a fun one for us. So I'm very, very excited. I can't wait for that. There's a couple more questions. There's a couple more things that people, you know, wanted to know and so on and so forth. But I think we're going to wrap it up for today. One last thing. Rob Zamora said, can Jason speak in the human language that the AWOC characters hear?
Oh, he must have read the read the comic. I haven't really thought about it. I just kind of I have no idea.
If you have no idea what we're talking about, read issue 6. You'll understand it in issue 6. My lovely wife Amanda says, "Boys trip, you better not have any fun." You'll
have no fun. All work.
Full disclosure, Jason, you messaged me, was it Monday or Tuesday, and said, "Hey, do you want to go to San Diego Comic-Con?" And I said, "I can't." And then that night she said, "You should probably go." And so the next day I said, "Is the offer still on the table?" So I wasn't even going to go. She said, "You should go." So now I have flights booked. I'm going. We're doing San Diego Comic-Con. I have 3 weeks to get over my anxiety before we get there. I'm sure it's going to be a blast. But like I said, I'm a planner. This is too
I
spontaneous
have
for
no
somebody that
anxiety
plans
about
things
it.
so far ahead.
The only thing that I'm concerned about
The robot doesn't help.
trying to
That's
decide if I could. I have like a little. Yeah, I
huh?
have a
What?
little air mattress that's like a hand pump. I'm wondering if I should travel with that or just order one and have it delivered to the hotel.
I'm just gonna sleep on the floor. I don't care. I mean, I'm not that part. I'm not bothered about. That's the what's weird is that when I
Yeah,
was
me
younger,
too.
we used to do
Yeah,
trips like this all the
yeah.
time, where we would just like go. I would, go to another.
I know,
We were in
right?
bands, right? Like
Yeah.
so I would travel with skateboarders or BMX kids or like bands, and it was
Yeah,
like you sleep
that's what,
wherever you
yeah.
find
Used to
room.
sleeping on the
If you get
floor.
a blanket, it's a bonus, and so that's
Right,
this kind of
exactly.
that's the trip. That's the trip that I'm expecting
Right.
for San Diego Comic Con. So I'm excited. It's
Yeah,
going to be
for
fun.
sure. Exactly. That's it.
What? Anyway, let's wrap it up. We will talk to you guys all again very, very soon, hopefully. As I said, we're doing San Diego Comic-Con in a few weeks, so we'll have, stories from the road and stuff like that. I think the next time we'll probably get together will be after San Diego Comic-Con, and we'll have more to talk about and share, and hopefully more updates. So until then, bye-bye everybody.
Bye.